first step is to increase police visibility by employing more police women and men, and also to create a more active role for citizens through effective community policing forums.
Well, taking on a cue from the president there. Good evening and welcome to Unfiltered on Channel 404. I'm your host, Desiree Chauke. Today we're not on the SABC 3 due to live Cricket World Cup action. Thanks to our viewers for starting the conversation on social media, where we asked you, is South Africa's crime situation out of control? This despite the latest crime stats, which indicate a reduction in crime. But on a daily basis, gang violence is claiming lives in the Western Cape. Political violence is rife in KZN. This whole week, we've been reporting on a possible serial killer on the loose in Pretoria. Are we becoming an unsafe society? For that discussion, we have in the studio the Minister of Police, General Bheki Cele. We're also joined from the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation, CSVR, by Anna Moyo Kupeta. She is the Advocacy Program Manager. As we welcome our guests, we ask you, the viewer, is the South African police capable of fighting rampant crime? We see you've already sent through your thoughts on our social media platforms, and you're welcome to continue the conversation on Facebook and Twitter using hashtags at SABC News Online and at SABC News Unfiltered. A very warm welcome to both of you.
Good evening to both of you.
General, you heard briefly that piece that we picked up from the State of the Nation address, and what the president was saying is something that you've lamented for a while, that we're not following the United Nations standard of having one policeman per 200 people. In an era where our economy is not growing, how are we going to be able to employ the 5,000 a year police women and men that the president says he would like to see you employ?
No, good evening, Desiree, and the listenership out there. Indeed, 1:220 United Nations standards. In South Africa at the present moment, we are 1:383. It's almost doubled. President talks about 5,000. That's what we have in colleges at the present moment. And he continues to call us to put more. Next year we'll have 7,000. On the outer year we'll have another 7,000. It's a chicken and egg, because we talk about the economy that doesn't grow. Indeed, in the criminal situation, it can't grow. You need to fix the crime situation for the economy to grow. Usually people, they talk about the bloated, the civil servant and all that. What is not said is that there are some areas that are so, and there are some areas that they still need to be fed in terms of personnel, and police is one section where we need to add the police. At the present moment, we're 193,000. We're 60,000 down to make that 1:220. We hope that moving with these figures, we will do it in the next 5 years to be able to do it. But for now, visibility, as the president is saying, is one biggest portion of policing. So we need to increase our numbers.
How do those shortfalls impact on the implementation of the criminal justice system?
Well, criminal justice system is a chain, starting from the police, your prosecution, your magistrates, judiciary, to the correctional service. Well, unfortunately, what is at the core face of the community and the society are police. That's why they talk so much about the police, and they don't understand the next segment, which is a very big problem for the Minister of Justice. We have had almost 3 meetings since he came, raising the issue of boosting the chain rather than one segment of the criminal justice system. For instance, this weekend, we arrested 132 most wanted criminals here in Gauteng.
Only in Gauteng?
Only in Gauteng. Yorville, everywhere. 132 wanted, not just small fish. The problem now is some of them are on bail, some of them They've just given parole and all that kind of thing. So you'll send them back to the system that is thinner than the police, because if those are the figures that we'll give. But when you send them to the prosecution, when you send them to court on Monday, most of them will get bail and go out, because the system is not boosted at all the way from police to the correctional service. That's what we're trying to work on now, rather than dealing with one segment, deal with our whole chain. And I think the Criminal Justice System Committee is really working on that.
Enna, your organization deals with crime at community level, and you heard the president now talking about making sure that those societal activism groups or activity groups are boosted and are effective. What are your thoughts about the efficiency or effectiveness of the South African police service?
Thank you, Desiree. Indeed, I would like to start by applauding the president's position around addressing policing issues, and also acknowledging the very fact that crime and violence is a societal problem in South Africa. Indeed, crime happens at community level, and this is where we really need to see strategies beginning to take shape and forming and being designed and taking shape and being implemented. However, we are concerned as the Center about the overemphasis on policing and the criminal justice system as a solution to the violence and the crime problem in South Africa, because policing and the criminal justice system, for instance, comes at the end of the spectrum. This is when we're dealing with the after effects, or we're dealing with crime that has happened already. However, we need strategies that go beyond the policing and criminal justice mechanisms or strategies that actually deal with the drivers of violence, the root causes of violence and crime in communities, dealing with such issues as inequality in South Africa, which is a big problem, unemployment, and issues again of poverty.
Just today we're reporting on a case in Limpopo where a father has killed their children.
Indeed. So dealing with what drives a man to commit such a crime, a heinous crime, is what we need to address as a society before even dealing with him as a criminal. What is wrong in our society? What is the cycle of our society that makes people in communities to be violent? When we start addressing the root causes or the drivers of violence, when we start addressing those in a multi-pronged approach, and also addressing the policing issues at a community level, as the minister has said, then we can begin to really deal with the problem coming from both angles, and ensuring that we deal with prevention strategies as well as the after effects, or the dealing with crime as after the fact, after it has occurred already. It is really not it is not productive to only deal with these issues as a socio-economic issue, the issues that I've mentioned of inequality, poverty, unemployment, but also as a prevention strategy as well, ensuring that we do not spiral into crime,
so
we do not spiral into that
reaction,
level.
prevention as well.
Yes.
We'll be back after the break. Stay tuned to SABC News Channel 404. You're watching Unfiltered. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with Unfiltered. We're having a conversation about the South African Police Service, and some of you have sent through some tweets. Nazim Khruedboom saying, I think the South African police are capable of doing their job and fighting crime, but there are some individuals and corrupt people who are spoiling the fighting of crime. Lala Poshoko says, there are those who are trying but mostly care less. Please understand that officers are between the shark and the crocodile. They have to fight the criminals who have too much rights and power than them. Those are your thoughts. Continue to send us more of those, and we'll continue to have the conversation online as well. General, you have just been reinstated in a new reconfigured cabinet, and you kept your position. Do you think this is the president's way of showing confidence in your work?
Well, His Excellency is better pleased to answer that question. But for now, is to say thanks and try to pay back to the people of the Republic of South Africa by trying to improve the situation of safety and security in the country. Indeed, it is. In your opening, you said crime is going down. What is not going down with the crime is violence. South African crime, for
big concern,
for whatever reason, is so violent. So we're talking about the father today, but it follows in many. What's a story when the mother poisoned all 4 kids? So what do you say when the father shoots kids and hangs himself, as it happened some few weeks ago? So is one area that all of us will have to work very hard on it. That is the very violent crime in South Africa, your gangsterism in South Africa, but criminal crime like your cash heist, your robberies, your hijack. People, they will hijack your Desiree, drive away, leave you stranded, come back and shoot you after they've taken the car away. So there is really beyond, and we'll arrest that person. But as Anna says, it is an after effect. You are dead, we arrest you. And unfortunately, at the present moment, prisons are going to be full of the lifers. We have sent so many lifers in prison now. And what we need to work hard is a preventative measures that we don't reach the situation where you die and we send a person
But Minister,
to life.
we were talking at the beginning of the conversation about the strengthening of your operations. Conversations such as when is a new head of IPID going to be appointed, and also the problem of police violence against citizens. What are we doing to deal with those conversations?
Well, I wish that you bring that topic one day of the violence of police vis-a-vis the violence of community and criminality. Today, I came back from Cape Town this morning, and I visited the family of a young in Morocco, of a young 28-year-old, 28-year-old, only 4 years in the police shot and killed. So I think we'll have to balance.
There are all these different sides.
Yeah, we'll have to balance that. We'll be burying him in Guyana. 4 weeks ago, we buried a 26-year-old in Chesterville in Durban. So it's all sides. To say what police makes them the sitting ducks. You spoke about the laws and all that. I agree. We'll have to look at the laws. But South African police will have to understand one thing. We are policing on a very new dispensation of a constitutional place where there are human rights and all that. But police themselves are humans and they have human rights.
They're also covered by these rights.
So we'll have to really balance that situation. I like when people understand that, rather than as if police are just only rock. We do have rookies, I must tell you. As all other sections of society, even in church, you have rookies there. That's why we're trying some bishops that have done silly things and all that. So, in police, we need to deal with that. But the call that we're making, South Africans as citizens themselves, they must know that the law also protects the police. Police get out of their way, do wrong thing, hit hard on them. But whoever that hurts, shoots and kills the police, the law must also hit hard on those individuals in the society. That balance will have to really reach.
And I made just one example of the story that we're talking about today, but we hear harrowing stories of children planning to kill people. That was another story in Limpopo from the Northern Cape. There was a story of a child killing a teacher in a school. What are some of the stories that we never get to hear of at a societal level of crime amongst societies?
There are many stories, Desiree, of crime happening in communities, most of which is not reported upon. But I think what really is a crisis that we need to address is the social vacuum, the parenting vacuum, the family crisis happening in most communities that is actually leading to your school violence that we've been hearing a lot about in the past few weeks, for instance, where children end up killing each other. The normalization of violence, where children grow up in households where they see violence, they grow up in streets where violence has become the norm. So it's normal behavior. So when they do it, they're actually doing what they think is normal. They watch it on television, for instance. So all of this exposure to violence, to crisis, to criminality actually makes it normal to many communities, such that it does not become abnormal to commit crime or to be violent. It has become normalized in society. We speak of broken homes. What impact does this have on the problem? So the strategies to address or to prevent violence and crime should actually begin to deal with those. So we really need...
What do you do in the communities when you go in to talk about or to try and solve these issues?
There is a lot. Community dialogues are a starting point of actually getting people together to talk about these issues and even formulate strategies around tackling these issues at a community level, as communities, as neighbors, people living amongst each other who also know the situation, the reality of the lived experiences of the very people who commit some of these violent crimes, for instance. And moving on from there, of course, our minister has spoken about police visibility, which also really helps the strengthening of community policing forums, which are really the interface between the police and community members, and also being present in the community is also very important. But also what is very key is community leadership. That is important for building cohesion in communities and ensuring that communities actually work together to build societies that are violent-free, but at the same time being the very people who note the signs, the early warning signs of violence and criminality in communities, and then being able to link with the police and the community policing forums, being able to link with SAPS at a much higher level to ensure that it is uprooted from the beginning or at a starting point.
Just before we take a break, let's take a look at just one more tweet. Gwena Rams saying they're capable and need support from the community. Criminal lives or lives amongst us, but we fail to expose them. Instead, we bribe them to get our own way. Let's support our police, and police management must resolve the issue of promotions. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. Our guests tonight, Police Minister General Bheki Cele, as well as Anna Moyo Kubeta, who is the Advocacy Program Manager at the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation. Minister, these violent crimes are a real concern for our citizens. What action plans have you got in place to tackle this problem?
Can I take just one step back on the question of communities? If communities, it doesn't matter whether half of the South African population, 57.8 million, can be police. If the other half is not part of it, it won't work. You see, you go to Limpopo to bury that artist, that young boy. Among the killers, among the alleged killers, is a 13-year-old.
Shocking.
So, yes. So it's not the first one, even at school. At one time, we arrest somebody as young as 9 for rape. And the call would be...
Actually, we have a graphic for sexual offences in the background.
So somebody will make a call, where are the police? I think that will be a wrong question. Where are the mothers, where are the parents of the 13, 12-year-old that are charged for murder? So we shouldn't really push the community, especially at the family level. You see, that is the biggest organization. Whenever I speak, I say the biggest organization is not the United Nations. The biggest organization of the world is a family. So you interfere with that part of the world, such things happen. I go to communities, they complain to say, and all that kind of thing. Because if your daughter, there is a van that is written, Yeoville police station is parking in your yard the whole day, you're a parent, you're a mother. Why don't you say, police, go back to the station, my daughter, don't bring the police vans here.
But Minister, that's a different aspect of action. On the police side, what are your plans, especially as an incoming minister?
No, I was making the importance of the role that can be played by the parents. So on that one, we're not going to divorce working one with the communities. We will never win if we
the
divorce.
Social compact that the president has been talking about. Yeah.
We'll never, at all levels. Secondly, we must work as a cluster, as a chain, working together from the police until the correctional service. But thirdly, put the numbers of the police where they're supposed to be. And fourthly, train them accordingly. And somebody raised an issue of their promotion and all that, because they're human beings. And if we work their welfare and all that, it makes their morale better, working better going forward.
You've previously complained that the cluster is a bit dysfunctional. Are you meeting regularly now? What is your relationship with the Directorate of Prosecutions?
The cluster is tops, no doubt about it. The cluster is chaired by the Minister of Defense, co-chaired with the Minister of Police. We're so regular, meeting with all ministers that are there, but also with other structures. One thing that has been really fixed is a special unit of the South African Police, what you call Hawks, working with the new head of Mampato and all those things. Because if they work proper on that, the success is much better going forward. So it's try to work and everybody, rather than working in silos, but work as a structure, as one structure, achieving one thing to fight crime.
We can't go through every case, but every now and again, people want to know Gwenzagalani with the case of Usenzo Meyu.
I was expecting that question.
We're happy to hear that.
I was expecting that question. Nowhere I go, and minus the case of...
There is a real interest in it.
Yes, a big one. Well, there are quite several of them that we call cold cases, including this one. May I dodge this for now? And I'll simply say to you, is in hands, has been, personally, I've discussed it with the head of the NPA, but the National Commissioner is in constant contact with the head of the NPA and other people. I don't want to mention names of those people responsible, but one of those advocates is Chauke, who's working on these matters.
No relation.
Okay, but I'm saying it is at that level. I still put my head on the block that this case will be cracked, and others. There is a Botswana one that people...
Another political case.
Yeah, they're still asking and all those kinds of things. So we're working hard. You raise the issue of KZN. KZN, I think, since President instructed us how to deal with those matters, 163...
Do you think it's unreasonable for citizens to expect results?
No. Is that their right? We're employed by the citizens of South Africa. So they must be report back how far have we gone, and they must hear what is happening on the ground, trying to work on the crime situation. The crime, especially the trio crime that brings so much fear in the hearts of the South Africans, your housebreaking. Housebreaking is different from house robbery. House robbery, they expect you, they wait for you to get out of the house they get in. House robbery, they wait for you to come in. And
there might even be violence involved.
Almost. It's violence, things they want. They want your guns, they want your jewelry and all that. Yeah. Sometimes rape in front of the parents and all that. That kind of violence is one thing that as South African must work hard and make sure that crime does not just get reduced only, but we also violent nature of the South African crime.
What are we doing to deal with the violent nature of crime in South Africa?
We are not doing much if we're only focusing on the criminal justice system and policing. We also need to ensure that at the level that we're in, we also need to ensure strategies that also support victims, because we also have situations of victims tend perpetrators and perpetrators tend victims, the cyclical nature of violence in South Africa. Therefore, there is need for support for victims. Strengthening these institutions or mechanisms of victim support is important, but also ensuring that we, in addition to increasing police in the SAPS, we also need to increase psychologists, social workers, and care workers in our communities so that they actually begin to address some of the vacuums that exist in society, in communities, and even in families. When we send our children coming from broken homes or families that are in crisis, or where there's a parenting vacuum, those children will definitely need support in terms of psychosocial support, also social support and care support to fill in that vacuum. It is not enough to expect that teachers then begin to take the parenting role for children that they meet for the rest of the day, yet they are home for the longer duration of the day.
Thank you so much for coming through to talk to us tonight. Anna Moyo Kupeta from CSVR and the Minister of Police General Bheki Cele. Let's take a look at our poll for tonight before we say goodbye. We don't seem to be getting that, and time is ticking away. All right, we were asking you, is the South African Police Service capable of fighting crime? 12% of you say yes, and 70% say no, and 18% reckon that the police service is trying. Thanks for your contributions tonight, and thanks for watching Unfiltered here on Channel 404. Till next time, it's a good night.